Mega Man X7 is the bane of the Blue Bomber's existence, but in this video game court, it's innocent until proven guilty. Court is now in session for a busterific episode of Innocent Until Proven Guilty. Capcom's iconic mascot has had a long history of ups and downs. His unfortunate absence over most of this decade has been one of the major downs, but there's one notable aberration that definitely surpasses it. On October 14th, 2003, the Blue Bomber's futuristic counterpart transitioned into the third dimension with a title that's been condemned by fans and critics alike. I've known of this notorious offender's reputation for quite a while, but I've yet to have enough personal experience to form an opinion until now. After receiving a bunch of requests over the years, the time has finally come to bring Mega Man X7 to trial. Mega Man X7 was released for the PlayStation 2 and marked the franchise's first steps outside of its 16 and 32-bit comfort zone. The infamous black sheep in the Capcom catalog largely sticks to the tried and true formula of its predecessors and kicks off with a shocking twist. X has retired from active duty and the Maverick Hunters are in disarray without his guidance, paving the way for the rise of the Red Alert vigilante group. Red Alert is not surprisingly led by a guy named Red, and he's supported in his efforts by Axel, the aspiring hunter in training. The story takes a tragic turn for the worse when the bulk of the Red Alert agents go haywire, resulting in Axel defecting from his former comrades and fleeing for his life. The playable prologue that follows serves as a tutorial and shifts the focus onto the aforementioned rookie, whose controls offer a mix of original and recycled mechanics. Axel retains the dash and charge shot of his idol, but ups the ante with a floating ability and ditches the Buster in favor of a multi-purpose blaster. During my initial playthrough, Axel quickly became my preferred protagonist and I found him to be a fascinating addition to the lore, but Capcom's decision to put the spotlight on him instead of the titular character was certain to turn off SNES-raised retro enthusiasts. Luckily, the designers seem to have recognized this potential problem and placated their diehard fanbase in advance by devoting a sizable chunk of the disc space to the linear 2D side-scrolling that put the franchise in the map and sweetened the pot even further by speedily reintroducing Zero into the picture. The scarlet sword-toting badass monologues in a gruff voice ripped straight out of a western before entering into a virtual recreation of the classic stage that started it all.
I can't believe I'm back here again. What the heck has happened? They really made a mess.
Zero's ultra-powerful Z-Saber and close-range technique perfectly complement Axel's run-and-gun style, and their combined forces swiftly decimate the rampaging Mechalanoid, triggering another cutscene that continues the narrative. Axel is arrested for the destruction he was indirectly responsible for, and he informs X-Zero and the rest of the Maverick Hunters about the situation he's become mired in. I suppose I should take this opportunity to address one of Mega Man X7's biggest flaws, the voice acting.
I left Red Alert. Believe it or not, I'm a hunter.
Red Alert? You mean that gang of wannabe vigilantes?
Do you realize how much damage your internal bickering has caused?
I apologize for that, but I had to leave. As for what happened as a result, that's the way it goes.
Wow, I'm speechless. I'm normally able to see the silver lining in everything, but that is beyond redemption. It blows my mind that this got the green light from Capcom, and what makes it even weirder is that these people are still working in the field to this day. In fact, X's English actor went on to dub lines for ARMS and Super Bomberman R.
We've made this mistake time and time again. Why must Reuploads continue this accursed cycle of aggression?
In fairness to Peter Von Gomm, this was one of his first projects and he's apparently honed his craft in recent years, judging by the clips I've heard online, but that doesn't atone for this painful performance, and I'd strongly suggest toggling over to the Japanese audio track instead.
そうみたいだね。まさかあんなやつまで使って追ってくるとは思わなかったんだ。何？ どういうことだ。追われているのか。
抜け出してきたんだ、レッドアラートから。こう見えてもハンターなんだよ。
レッドアラート、あの自警団を気取っているならず者の集団。
お前たちの内輪もめでどれだけの被害が出たと思ってるんだ。
Ah, much better. Axel's interrogation by the hunters is interrupted by Red, who issues a challenge to determine the fate of his former colleague. X is reluctant to comply, so Zero partners up with the fugitive in order to shut down Red and his goons for good. With the setup for the rest of the plot firmly established, the Robot Master selection screen pops up and we're introduced to the simultaneously most bizarre and least creative rogues gallery to appear in any of the Mega Man titles to date. Capcom was clearly scraping the bottom of the barrel with such WTF-worthy characters as Tornado Tunyon, Vanishing Gungaroo, Ride Borsky, and Flame Hyenard. The levels that lead up to this crazy crew check off most of the essential tropes, with settings ranging from a fiery inferno to a treacherous jungle, but the majority mirror the Robot Master's lack of inspiration by sharing an overwhelmingly similar industrial feel in common. Each area is broken down into a series of 2- and 3-dimensional segments, and the player has the option to tackle them with a team of 2 of the protagonists. Axel and Zero are the default choices, but X jumps back into the fray after destroying all of the Robot Masters or saving 64 Reuploads. The Reuploads are scattered around the various locations, and rescuing them not only restores X's fighting spirit, but they also reward power-up parts that can be redeemed in the upgrade menu to reach our hero's full potential. These particular upgrades can only be accessed upon finishing or failing a mission, but they're supplemented by the hard health expansions and E-tanks, as well as X's signature armor pieces. In keeping with the tradition of the series, there are holographic capsules hidden within 4 of the main sections, and entering them will transform Dr. Light's creation into a mean machine of superior strength. The glide armor is absolutely necessary for achieving the maximum fun factor, since the Stock X really sucks. Stock X's Charge Buster Shot is admittedly a massive improvement over Axel's Pea Shooter, but he can't double jump nor can he hover, and he has very little protection against the ravenous hordes waiting to grind him into microscopic particles. The glide armor rectifies every single one of these shortcomings and implements a new attack called Giga Crash that chips a huge amount of energy off of the boss's meters. On my first session, I relied on Axel's rolling Death Bomb maneuver to wall up Red's Renegades, but Armored X rendered that redundant on my second, and I became intimately familiar with the cheesy cinematics that unfold before and after each enemy encounter in the process. The dialogue alternates depending on which character is chosen, and the voice cast churns it out in an atrocious, stilted manner.
Stop us! Stop Red, please, yeah?
What?
It's Professor! Professor redesigned us! We no longer...
Professor? Who the heck is that?
We no control, yeah? Can't stop none of us! Please, please save us! We're becoming something else! Around and around! Axel, you grow up handsome boy, yeah? But I grow up handsome boy!
Axel, you grow up handsome boy, yeah? But I grow up handsome boy!
Flame Hyenard in particular has become a bit of a meme recently, and most people understandably find it to be abrasive, but I think it's hilarious.
Warning! Warning!
Turn to the ground! Turn to the ground! Turn to the ground! Turn to the ground!
Anyway, the bosses can be eliminated by utilizing the typical rock, paper, scissors weakness exploitation system, but I was able to progress past them with the standard tools of the trade, and I soon discovered the location of the Red Alert base, as well as the identity of the secret puppet master manipulating the strings the entire time, who turns out to be, you guessed it, Sigma. The road to Sigma involves a string of Wily's castle-esque travails, including a frantic chase from a bulldozer bot, an escalation up a bat and boulder-filled corridor, and the climactic showdown with Red. Red is a tough teleporting SOB, and it took me a number of attempts to figure out the best strategy to combat his trickery, but I eventually brought him down with the combination of Axel's Volt Tornado and Zero's Sword Blast. Upon Red's defeat and the completion of the prerequisite boss rush, Sigma steps out of the shadows and engages his lifelong adversaries in a two-part battle. The first is very simple, and I was able to annihilate the fierce foe as Glide Armor X without breaking a sweat, but his gargantuan second appearance turned out to be much less of a pushover. Between the unsteady footholds and insta-kill ground pounds, I had a hell of a time fending off this ridiculously cheap bastard, but I eventually got into a groove, switching around the protagonist with reckless abandon whenever their specific sets of skills were required, and I finally put this sucker behind me. The ensuing anime ending has Sigma making a last stand and pulverizing Axel with a mighty punch. All seems lost as Red emerges unscathed from the rubble and reteams with Sigma, but this miraculous twist of fate is revealed to be a clever ruse devised by Axel, who swiftly sends Sigma flying out of the window. The story wraps up on an ambiguous note with 1 out of 3 possible codas, which are determined by the character that dealt Sigma's death blow. The plot apparently continues into the final sequel, but I've never played it, so I have no idea which of these codas is canon. Regardless of what follows, Mega Man X7 presents a unique case. It's the only installment in the franchise to incorporate 3D segments, and it reduces the formerly awesome titular character into a pathetic, preachy pacifist who plays second fiddle to an annoying, whiny brat. The dialogue is trash delivered by a bunch of rank amateurs, the robot masters are uninspired, and that's just the tip of this disastrous iceberg.
Stop it!
With that said though, there are a lot of positive traits associated with Mega Man X7. The presentation is surprisingly solid and I really dig the cel-shaded art style. The controls are tight and the gameplay offers a respectable amount of variety, plus the issue that's considered to be a major flaw by most is, well, still a gigantic flaw, but an extremely amusing one. The cutscenes are the epitome of so bad it's good, and I found myself laughing on numerous occasions at the sheer absurdity of it all.
Good job!
All right, we know you're in there, so come on out, Professor.
Thanks for coming by, fellas. This way I can face you in the comfort of my own home. I guess this means you've already defeated all the worthless others.
How do you figure, Axel? Who'd have thought I'd turn out stronger than you? I'm not the kid you used to know.
But you're acting like a kid right now.
Don't call me a kid. I ain't that no more. If you keep misbehaving, you won't get your snack.
However, I can't escape from the notion that this is a gigantic insult to the fans. It took one of the coolest side-scrolling stars of the 16-bit era and turned him into a worthless, spineless ninny, and that is a completely unforgivable offense as far as I'm concerned, so I have no choice but to rule that Mega Man X7 is guilty of all charges. In the entire history of this show, I've never had a verdict tie me up in knots as much as this. There are a lot of things that I appreciate about this game, and I admire Capcom's courage in taking such a bold risk, but you really have to be able to separate this from the series to get any kind of enjoyment from it. As a generic 3D platformer, it's pretty decent, But as a Mega Man X title, it's an epic disappointment. The decision to nerf the legendary hero was a boneheaded blunder that ultimately soured my overall experience, and anyone expecting to get the warm nostalgia fuzzies should stay far away from this frustrating failure.
Burn to the ground! Burn! Burn to the ground! God! 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 Burn!
Anyway, now that I've condemned this despised degenerate from the 6th console generation, it's time for another Cygnus review. Be sure to come back for that and to leave any recommendations for future trials in the comments below, but until then, court is now adjourned! Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw and you want to see more, the boxes on the screen right now will lead to some more of my videos, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking on my avatar in the bottom right hand corner. Thanks again.